Hello and welcome to episode 300 of the Exploring Sessions, except it's sort of not episode 300. It's sort of about 308, but some of them have been kept back and haven't been released yet, unless you sort of count it in a different way, in which case it's about 297. Otherwise, it's episode 300, so it's all going wrong for us. So yes, we have been doing many Exploring Sessions. This is not a special Exploring Session at all. In fact, it's part 3 of our look at Virtuous and Godly Susanna. So we're not even doing the beginning of something. We're just we're closing off this particular narrative, which we should say at this point that content warning that there's is a discussion of sexual violence is one of the central themes of the text. Though it has to be said, so far, sometimes when you have this in a play, one gets terribly afraid about what the early modern period is going to be doing with such a subject matter. But so far, he said, touching wood, this playwright has been giving us a lot of food for thought about what this play is doing. So we are hopeful for this final session, looking at the Virtuous and Godly Susanna. It's called a comedy of the most virtuous and godly Susanna. The term can be a little fluid as to how much that it means actually expecting people to laugh, but we have found that there are jokes, there is some dark humour, and there is a mixing of tones, so quite interesting to see where that is all going to go. To continue this exploration today, we have reading Judex and the Devil is...
Lynsey Beauchamp, actor, currently in Norfolk.
Reading Voluptas and True Report today is...
Hi, David, in London, researcher and writer on British art.
Reading Daniel and also Servuus today is...
Nicole, actor in New Jersey.
Reading Susanna herself is...
Liza Graham, actor, singer, general theatre bod in London.
Reading Ill Report and also Uxor is...
I'm Alex, I'm an actor from Perthshire.
And reading Sensualitas and Joachim today is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I almost brushed my teeth with soap. It's that kind of day.
Excellent. Day's going well. There's still time for it to improve. And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading Baily and maybe a couple of other characters, but I think I can pass them around the cast at random, unexpected intervals to keep them on their toes. When they least expect it, a part will be handed to them. Anyway, we are rejoining at the reappearance of Ill Report, where we left the play. The slanders about Susanna's reputation have been laid by Sensualitas and Voluptas. The court of public opinion has been discussing the case. Various servants have been discussing it. Susanna's parents have been discussing it. And now the play enters the vice and saith his dialogue in my best petticoat, etc., with a bell in his hand. I don't know if Ill Report has brought a bell with him. I've got a little one here, if that helps. So Ill Report entereth and saith,
In my best petticoat is there a hole? My sister burnt it with a coal. A skein of silk will not make it whole. Will ye buy any sand, mistress? Now I desire the pox and wildfire, and all the plagues of hell may recompense his meed that first wrought this deed to give me this bell. Ill Report is a crier, and a common liar. As every knave saith now, in faith I was an honest man, but I cannot tell when some sport me to you. Is it not pretty gear that I must spend and wear my shoes in this sort, and trot about the country upon my 10-toed palfrey? It is a pretty sport. Know you not Joachim's wife? It is a piece with a mischief. She must have 2 at once. There is never a wench here, but in her best gear would have flesh without bones. Why? Why do you wink? Shame to you that shame think. It is but your kind. So you may do it covertly and cloak it honestly. You care not where you find. Well, I would Master Jailer would come. Then shall all and some know the cause of my coming. It is, as I fear, for other manner of gear than for masking or mumming.
And then the jailer cometh in. What ill report? How do ye?
I come to seek a knave, I think it be ye.
What, swear not, fellow, it is not an hour ago since we were both knaves, the people say so. But what business hast thou to do?
Why, you shitten knave, what is that to you?
The cause why I come hither now is my master's will to done, and to tell thee that Susanna shall be here arraigned soon.
And worthy to I make God a vow, but what ill luck had I, that could not get grant to hunt in her haunt before that she die? Dispatch, I pray thee, for yonder I see the judges are coming, and therefore take pain. I say once again, let us do something.
We need not, since we are here already. Here entereth Judex, Sensualitas, Voluptas, and Susanna, and Judex speaks.
Who liveth in this world and hath to guide the people too, have work enough, I warrant you, and more than he can do. Here have I now a business that is of marvellous weight. The way to find the truth thereof is also very straight. But yet in doing of the same, I would we had begun. The sooner that we do begin, the sooner it is done. What, Baily, have ye hear the cry that I willed you to make?
Yea, my lord. And here the judge sitteth down.
Then let the crier hear and oyes make, and you yourself do to him make the order of the cry, and let him speak it after you. Come off, and do you high.
Ill report, make an oyes here. And we're just going to pause here to discuss what is about to happen, because it is textually a little confusing. So, ill report goeth up. But Liza has a thought, and the bit at the beginning of this text is in bold because we weren't quite sure precisely how to interpret what was about to follow, but Liza may indeed have accurate thoughts, which we can test.
Yeah, I think this is a comedy mishearing thing, and I think Baily has the first line, and ill report, as Judex has ordered, says the line after him. And I think that's the procedure till Judex says crier call Susanna, possibly. Because if I think that makes more sense than if one person says it. And we have seen this kind of thing before, when people take oaths and things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the way it works is ill report says, help me up, Baily. I says oyes, you says oyes, I says all manner creatures, you say all manner traitors, and we go on in that fashion. I think that seems like a very good way to test this proposition. Okay. Ill report, you're up first.
Help me up, Baily.
Oyes!
Noise!
All manner creatures,
All manner traitors,
that have human features,
that are yeoman feuters,
and dwell within this land,
that lead dogs in band.
come in and disclose,
Do stop well your nose,
what you hear and suppose,
for fear of the pose,
by this woman Susan,
and give me your hand.
and what you can tell,
And if you cannot smell,
shall now be heard well,
then are you not well.
as reason it is.
For reasons, by jizz,
Your work shall be good,
will do you small good,
in saving her blood,
but change your good blood
if she did not amiss.
to stinking iwis.
But if she be guilty,
But if you be guilty,
then it is necessity
with order of necessity,
that she die for a sin.
by shiting so thin,
Then what you can say,
then get you away,
let us know straightway,
and that straightway,
for the court doth begin.
and to cleanse you begin.
That seemed to make sense. That seemed to work very nicely. I don't know if that could be shutting so thin. It might not be, but it does seem to be along those. I don't know what alternatively it could be. Apologies, by the way, for anyone trying to decide what accent I'm doing. I'm doing all the accents. I'm doing all of them, just to differentiate between when I'm occasionally reading stage directions. I haven't decided which one. It's going all over the shop. So, any thoughts about that as a piece of business? Does Baily know what should Baily be reacting more to what's going on, or is he not hearing it? Is he too in his own mind? How far does this comedy shtick go? There are no answers forthcoming. Lynsey.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, I thought it worked really well, and it sort of was harking back to this play being described as a comedy. And, you know, something like this could be a kind of a set piece within it, to, you know, prepare people to listen to what we hope is perhaps a more serious tone in the forthcoming trial, possibly.
Yeah, there's been a sort of interesting demarcation of comedy moments with mostly ill report, and then pulling it back. So it's like these things to break the tension, perhaps. Anyway, we will move on because in a moment, Eric.
In a moment, Eric. I was just going to say that it's interesting because you can kind of imagine the Baily going, all manner of creatures, and then, ill report's echo is kind of like, all manner of traitors, and the Baily kind of goes like, and then, but he has to continue, otherwise, he loses the flow as well. So you can kind of imagine that have human features, and then that are human features, and like sort of the echo is wrong. Basically, we've seen this with other plays as well, where there is an echo character who doesn't echo the stuff that is being said.
Or the one I'm thinking of, and I can't remember what play it's in, but the one I'm thinking of, it is an echo, but it's like synonyms or whatever, or slightly different stresses. So it could be a more accurate echo, but there's different emphasis, which was really effective. I can't remember what play.
There was one in Rafe, how you call it, in the Cobbler's Prophecy, where you had like him turning up, Rafe turning up to meet the muses, and then Echo turns up as well. He's
without
like,
any explanation as to what's going on.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's a really weird moment. Also
there was
reminds
one
me of...
we did in... Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, no, go on, Alex.
I was going to say, there was one we did... like in about 1993 when we started. I can't remember what it was, The Disobedient Child, or it may not have been that one, that played on the Latin thing. It was like a sort of Latin catechism where I seem to remember I was giving the Latin phrase and the female character repeating it back was managing to say something filthy or mangling it in English, which was sort of slightly cleverer than this one because it sort of was bilingually punning, whereas this one isn't. But I can't remember what play that was in, so that was a really helpful comment.
Yeah, well, no, that's fine. It's happening increasing regularity. I'm trying to remember which very similar play we've done. Having the clown deliberately mishearing and getting words wrong is a big trope, and that we've got a lot. Also, sort of reminds me of lots of these sort of set piece speeches that move at a pace. I mean, Ill Report's opening speech has a sort of weird, because it's very short lines, it's very weird, but you are also sort of explicating some things about what's going on, about that you are involved in the, you have become a crier. This is your job. You've got one job, which is to repeat what people say. You're not very good at it. Okay, we should be moving on in a moment. Just making sure everyone's still in the room. As we move forward, we are all in the room now. The crier's done the crying. Here shall the crier, the Baily, and the rest go stand before the judge, and tell him the cry is made.
Crier, call Susanna.
Susanna!
Here, my lord.
Stand forth and hold up thy hand.
Any here within this court there is that can detect this woman guilty of that crime whereof she is suspect. Come forth and lay your minds at large, and all that you know true, for now is time, and other time you have not that to do.
My lord, Susanna is the white whose fault we must accuse, and what she is that standeth there, we can do naught but muse. She is so muffled about the face, we think not it is not she. A crafty dame may compass, so to have us go awry.
Voluptas shall seem to whisper in the other's ear.
Thou sayest as well as heart can think, for though we could not touch, yet pleasing our eyes with this her sight shall serve our lust as much.
What peace, whoreson? My lord, under correction, I mean to see her face, and know if it be she or no, before I speak in place.
Discover her face, Baily.
Oh, I will, my lord. Come on, fair lady, you hear yourself what I am bid to do.
I pray thee, jailer, hold thee still. Myself will do it too. O living God that all things seeth, what means this cruelty? Do I not feel enough, good Lord, but all the world must see? I mourn the less, O Lord, thou knowest an innocent to die. But yet my grief is too great to end with infamy. Yet, Lord, I leave me to thy will, and I will say no more. Thou art my strength. In thee I hope. I have none other power.
Now, crier, hold them a book. Lay on you hands, and mark well what I shall say. The evidence that you shall give against this woman here is for truth's sake, and not for meed, for hatred, nor for fear. Ye shall declare the truth of all, and therefrom shall not slide, nor any part of it at all from us you shall not hide. This is your charge I charge you with. See thereto you do look. You swear by God who knoweth all, and also by this book.
They kiss the book.
As we two in the orchard walked, and none but we alone, in came this woman with two maids, but straight she sent them home. And weighty charge she gave them both. We could but muse wherefore, in any case, that they should shut and bar the orchard door. With that a young man straight steps forth that hidden secret lay, and came to her right shamefully, and found her Venus play. For us to see the end of this in secret corner stood. The open sight of this foul deed appalled our ancient blood. And when we saw with both our eyes that they had lined together, pretending for to take the wretch, ourselves we did discover. But when we laid our hands off him, we could not hold him still. His strength was so much fortitude, and ours very ill. This done, he hied him to the gate, and so from thence away. For reason saith one lusty blood, two men cannot stay. For now when this woman thus we took, dame, quoth we, what is he that thus your husband's bed hath filled, as we with sorrow see? But because she the time would help to frame a lie full well, and craftily then could hold her peace, and spared that to tell. So this the matter is indeed, and both we witness be, and as we mean to answer it, we say but what we see.
How say you, sir? I charge you now by the oath that you did take. Is this conclusion but the truth, that this your friend doth make?
True, sir, yea, true indeed. I would there were no cause, for Joachim her husband's sake, to punish her with laws.
Susanna, now thou seest here the evidence of these men. Speak for thyself, it is high time. What haste thou to say then? Wherefore thou oughtest not to die. For I must sentence give, speak forth, or else I know not how that longer thou shouldst live.
O God, O King, O mighty one, O ever-living Lord, what secrets is there thou seest not? What sin is not abhorred? Before each thing do come to pass, thou knowest what it will be. Thou knowest, good Lord, these wicked men have falsely blamed me, because I would not to their lust most shamefully consent. Against me, Lord, thou knowest they do this matter thus invent. Behold, my God, I die therefore through malice of their heart. Therefore, my God, receive my soul. None else can ease my smart.
Susanna, hold thee still a while, and hearken to my talk. Thy earthly days are almost past. Now must thou change thy walk. Thou seest here before thy face how plain thy fault is seen. For as I do, I must needs do, although thou wert a queen. Be thou therefore attentive to, and hearken to thy doom. Repent the life is gone and past. Think on the life to come. Know that there is a God indeed, on whom I heard thee call, that were thy sins 10 times as great, he would forgive them all. Well, hence thou must, and to the place where thou shalt end thy life. Lo, thus I end my sentence now, and thou shalt end thy strife.
Here the judge riseth, and Susanna is led to execution, and God raiseth the spirit of Daniel. But we'll pause there at that moment of the spirit of Daniel appearing. So yes, we've got. I'm just going to say the one thing before I throw it to the room. Voluptas shall seem to whisper in the other's ear, otherwise known as an aside. It's a really, long-winded way of saying these sotto voce to the person next to him. I just really like that as a detail in the text. The ill report calling out Susanna there. I mean, it's this question of how is it? Is it semi-comic? I mean, there's a really important question there, because it depends how many. We've got additional coming up. We've just had one, but we've got more coming. Where there's a sort of inferred additional dialogue in some of the stage directions. So we're going to get some coming up that are perhaps improvisory. So call Susanna. It's probably not just Susanna. It's Susanna. Susanna. And we're probably in competition with each other. Baily and Ill Report are probably both. Baily has to say it first probably, and then you have to repeat it. So it's almost like you have to repeat everything I say, and that could go on for ages. Thoughts from the room about the way the trial's gone. It's not been a long session. 2 witnesses giving collaborating a testimony, and that's about it. Thoughts, Lynsey?
Sadly lacking cross-examination. The word of the 2 men is simply taken, and despite the fact that Susanna said it is invented, she's not believed. She's not believed, and she's being, going to be executed for it. Yes.
Other thoughts, Rachael?
No, I don't know if this is the way that this trial's written is just for the play, or does this say something about? I mean, I know that in this scene she's being railroaded, but is anybody an advocate for her in this? Like, does she have a lawyer, and is this something about the medieval, not medieval, Elizabethan laws that I don't understand? Like, you wouldn't have a lawyer in this, or I'm not sure how it would set up or what that looks like historically, a courtroom.
Yeah, I mean, there's various things. Access to justice is very much a money-based thing, but it's also, we don't have the advocacy system that most Western courts have today. This idea that there will be someone necessarily speaking to Susanna is not an absolute. I mean, in terms of court procedure, I think from the context of this story, it is enough to get someone arraigned on. It has to be 2 witnesses. I think that is an element of this kind of judicial procedure. That's why it's important there's 2 of them. It's not just a he said, she said. It's a he said, she said situation. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what's lingering in the back of my head about this kind of proceeding. from within the context of the story, as it were, than the time that it was performed. Other thoughts? It's not going well so far. Eric?
I was going to say that it reminds me a bit of like sort of the witch trials, which I don't know very much detail about them, but like I imagine that this is sort of how they went, except without the intervention of the spirit of Daniel.
Yes, well, she does get an advocate in a sense, or potentially. I don't know whose side he's on. He might not be on her side. Liza?
Yeah, just that you're right. We're about to see the ghost of a famous judge who's the only judge who has a grasp of impartiality or the facts in this case.
There's very little evidence presented at all. I mean, that's what's quite interesting, is the absence.
Yes, she's invited to speak for herself, but it's unclear whether that prayer is an aside or whether the court hears it.
I thought they probably did hear it, because... but then maybe Judex isn't referring to her referring to God. Because he just basically tells her that it's the way there is a God indeed, felt that was a response, but it might not be. You're right. It could be an aside, couldn't it?
It's interesting that she appeals to the big judge rather than the earthly judge as well. She clearly has no faith in the judicial proceeding, perhaps.
It's an important question. Is Susanna? Are they hearing what she says, and has she lost faith in them, the earthly things, and is she just going direct line to God? In which case, it has to be said, it's a good link. The Wi-Fi network is holding firm, and yes, the window has opened. So let's move on. I'd say. Just a note, I will sort of nudge ill report to infer some dialogue from a stage direction coming up. So as I read it, I will pointedly pause. So Daniel, the spirit of Daniel has appeared.
O foolish folk of Israel, that know not ill from good, I am, you see, an innocent and guiltless of this blood.
I pray thee, friend, what mean thy words, which seem of such a weight? Disclose the secrets of thy mind, and tell us thereof straight.
That I mean speak, I tell you true, shall straight be plainly said. Why are you fools, O Israel, or are your wits dismayed? Or have you not the policy, the truth to know and try? Why have you now condemned here this Israelite to die? And that which worst is yet of all, and filleth her heart with ruth. You have done this, O foolish men, and have not known the truth. Go sit in judgment once again. The witness they have borne is false, and yet their gravity your senses doth suborn.
Marry, child, with all my heart, we will return us soon. And also what thou thinkest meet, it shall straightway be done. And since that God by thee hath given a warning to us all, come sit with us in judgment seat, lest we again should fall.
And Susanna for joy shall seem to swoon, and the vice shall call for...
Vinegar and mustard! Vinegar and mustard to fetch her again!
And the Baily shall say, is mustard good for sick folks?
Yea, sir, vinegar and mustard both is good for beef.
My Lord, my God, my King and joy, what have I done for thee, that in the midst of all my woes thus thou shouldst succour me? I, as touching filthy flesh, naught but a lump of clay, yet thou, O Lord, I find it still wilt always be my stay. What can I do for recompense unto thy heavenly grace? Naught else, good Lord, but praise thy name whilst I have living space. And I shall be a witness still to those that cleave to thee. Thou wilt not suffer them to fall, but wilt their aider be. Now, Lord, while life and days shall last, Until my breath be spent, I will set forth thy glorious praise, which is so permanent.
Daniel, I pray thee with all my heart, sit down and in this weighty charge do help to take our part.
Cause that silence be proclaimed.
Baily, cause the crier to make an oyes.
And here the crier goeth up again and maketh an oyes, please.
Oyes! Oyes!
And having the court reassembled, Judex now speaketh.
How many in this court doth stand to hear what God hath done? I charge them in that God his name their silence to use soon. And Baily, undo Susanna and rid her from her bands, and bind those wicked elders too, both by their feet and hands.
See here, good people, unto you all I speak, how God doth help the innocent, and eke their sorrows break. Let mine example comfort you in all kinds of distress, that if you suffer for his sake, he will your cares release. And let not fear of any man your constant heart remove, for from him that thus most constantly his simple flock doth love. You see, I am at liberty that erst hath been in thrall, and thus will God deal with all such as on his mercy call.
Where be these wicked people too, that would have shed the blood of guiltless Susan, for that she their filthy lust withstood?
Voluptas and Sensualitas, hold up your hands.
Here, my
Here,
lord.
my lord.
And Daniel speaks to the people.
Amongst each things that beareth life, there is nothing so excellent than man, nor yet there is nothing more pestilent. God made of man an innocent, thereby to show his power. Man made himself a wicked wight, as you see at this hour. God also did make magistrates, the poor to help and stay. Yet some do vile examples show, which now do bear a sway. I speak it not, I will you know, the worst man to offend, but for that such as guilty be, their guilt may soon amend. And you that wicked are indeed, have you none other trust? God will confound your acts and deeds, and turn yourselves to dust. And then, for your just desert, he will place you to dwell in Pluto's pit, a fiery lake, the deepest dike in hell. And therefore I advise you, and therefore I advertise you, do learn yourselves to know, and read God's books where you shall find, I naught but truth do show. And let these wicked elders too be sample to you all. View well their lofty state of late, and now do mark their fall.
What witness shall we have to try that they would do this act? So closely twixt themselves they have this filthy crime compact.
Command that these two wicked men may straight be put asunder, and how they shall accuse themselves, it will make you to wonder.
Crier, take aside Voluptas, while Sensualitas be examined.
Here he takes aside Voluptas and saith,
Come on, you knave, thou bawdy wretch, I hope to have thy coat, and for exchange thereof thou shalt be strangled in a rope. Marry, sir, a bloody gown upon my back will make me look a high, and then that I am ill report no worldly man can spy.
Well, friend, I would not have thee prate, nor place thy words awry, for all the world doth know right well thou art as ill as I.
Gog's wounds, knave, thou shitten slave, hast thou none to check but me? I am an honest man, prove it he that can, I will not be judged by thee.
No, God shall judge thee.
What, hast thou learned that lesson now? Had you learned it sooner, it had been better for you.
What sayst thou now, Sensualitas, now that thy mate is gone, and no man is here to help thee here, but thou art left alone? O old and crooked cankered carl, whose ancient wickedness and rape and vigor thou hast done, now thus detected is, what false decrees hast thou decreed, what innocents oppressed, what guilty folk hast thou set free, which good folk do detest? Thou hast forgot what God doth say, O wicked thou knowest when, Thou shalt not hurt the innocent, nor yet the righteous men. Well, if that thou the truth haste spoke, then tell under what tree the mutual talk between these two an orchard thou didst see?
Under a mulberry tree I saw their conference, and under that tree she committed her offence, and meaning not for to conceal that fault, but it to tell, we marked the order and the tree, we also marked it well.
Oh, now thou liest, thou wicked man. Unto thy head I speak, and look that God his vengeance will with shame upon thee wreak. And lo, thy sentence he hath heard, and thus he means to do, according to thy due desert, to cut thy life in two. And hear'st thou, Baily, take thou aside this vile and wicked wight, and so he cometh not to his mate, nor once within his sight.
Now that this man is gone, I beseech you hear me speak. Methinks he telleth still the tale that he at first did break.
Yea, one man may still in one tale, in onely order tell, but yet his mate will not agree, do therefore mark him well.
Ho, crier, bring in Voluptas there.
Anon, my lord, see how he cometh here.
Stand forth, Voluptas, and answer for thyself.
Thou must stand forth and show thee like an elf.
O wicked seed of Canaan, and not of Judah kind, fairness hath thine eyes deceived, and lust hath made thee blind. With Israel's daughters thus you dealt, and they for fear consent. But Judah daughter would not bide your deeds so pestilent. Now if such thing thou sawest by her, as thou haste made report, what kind of tree, I pray thee, waste, where under they did sport?
Under a pomegranate tree she used filthy sport, and take her part that taketh at list, it was in shameful sort.
Lo now, thou liest, naughty man, thy tongue hath thee betrayed, and eke thy fellows talk before your filthy lust bewrayed, and now your filthy lust is spied, we see it very well. O wicked wight, O devilish deed, O act that sounds to hell. God's angel standeth with his sword, even pressed to spill thy blood, and to dismember both your corpse, which erst was never good.
Crier, call in the Baily with Sensualitas. Now God be praised, and thanks I give to thee, O Daniel, and for this act I am most bound God's glory forth to tell. He hath saved here the innocent blood which in him put her trust, and by the words of their own mouth hath cast down the unjust. Now praise be to his name therefore, both now and eke alway. Let all the world that know his might, Amen, with us here say.
Here, my lord, here is Sensualitas.
Set him by Voluptas. Shall it please you, Daniel, now their sentence for to give? For all the world must needs confess they are not meet to live.
Now, Judex, I have done God's will. Proceed you in your charge, and give them sentence to the death. Do you yourself discharge?
Sensualitas and Voluptas, too, I speak unto you twain, how falsely you accused her, all men do now see plain, and God himself to save her blood hath wonderfully wrought, and you that sought to spill the same are also come to naught. Well, God forgive your wicked deed, and give yourselves to pray, for of your course of mortal life this same is the last day. For hence you shall unto the place where such do use to die, as do transgress the prince's law, even forthwith, by and by, and there with stones you shall be stoned, while life and limb doth last. Ho, there away with them, I say, let it be done in haste.
And here goeth out Judex and Daniel and ill report, and the Baily lead the two judges to execution, which we'll come to in a moment. So yes, Perry Mason would be proud. There's all sorts of things to be said here. David, want to leap in straight away?
It does seem as if Voluptas and Sensualitas are found guilty based on their inability to recognise trees. It seems like it's a kind of botanical knowledge failure, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. It could just be an honest mistake on that they're just not very good with trees. Alex.
It's interesting that they chose a pomegranate and a mulberry, because apparently in the Greek Bible, in the Apocrypha, it's a punning tale that they muddle them up with a mastic tree and a holm oak tree, and the sounds of the words that they use for the tree names sound like a sword and a saw. So that's what's going to happen to them, and it's really interesting. I'm really interested in natural history, so I'm really interested as to why they chose a mulberry and a pomegranate, because neither of those are particularly. I thought they might go with an oak and an elm or something immediately recognizable to a British to an English audience. But it's also interesting that God conjures up the spirit of Daniel, because as I understand it in the apocryphal tale, it's actually like the tales of the young Daniel, that this is what he does before he goes on to the lion's den and Nebuchadnezzar and all of that. So it's weird. It almost reads like a ritualistic thing that's being replayed over and over again. But yeah, you're right. It's totally Murder, She Wrote. It's totally like you said, that they found it by the window and no one could have known that, because it's flimsy evidence at best.
I like this, because we were talking about the things that this playwright is choosing to do things. I mean, it might be that he's getting it from a source which has mucked around with the tale anyway. I mean, one can never be absolutely certain on that front. But just the idea that if Daniel is there for everybody, anybody who has can pray to Daniel, and he will come swooping in like the best defense lawyer in town. That gives this a whole different meaning as a story. It's not just this is the story of this specific time and this specific event. That he actually could be a savior for everybody on some weird level.
Totally missed a trick, though, by not having the tree be an elder tree, given that they're both elders. I mean, if it's a punning tale, I mean, they totally could have gone to town on that. So disappointed with the botanical puns in this one.
Well, I think that's got to go down in the show report, isn't it? It's disappointed in the botanical puns. I didn't even know I needed a botanical puns column, but no, that obviously needs to be started. Liza, I think, wanted to jump in.
Just briefly. Yeah, it is reassuring to know that if your lawyer is incompetent, it makes the ghost of Daniel so frustrated that he rises from the grave to be like, no, this is how you cross-examine someone.
Lynsey.
Sorry, I was just thinking to what Alex was saying about the disappointing botanical puns, and I'm rubbish at botany or anything like that and tree recognition, but I think it takes place in an orchard. So pomegranate is a fruit tree. I'm supposing a mulberry is too, although I only know the women's accessories brand in terms of the details of that. So
other accessory brands are available.
They are available, and they're cheaper. But I'm just wondering if sadly the pun was missed, but only for botanical accuracy because it's in an orchard. I mean, I have no vested interest in defending the playwright here, and in terms of what Liza said, yes, I mean, it's slightly disappointing that there is a Deus Ex Machina for me, but it's also badly needed because nobody in the play, apart from Susanna, is really, and maybe, it's interesting. Where is Joachim?
Yeah, exactly.
Where is he? What's going on?
He's coming. He's coming. He is in this session. He is coming. But you're right. I mean, it does seem to be a closed session. Again, we're thinking jury trial here. That's not what's going on. But just going back, you were talking about it being disappointing that we need a Deus Ex Machina, but maybe it's just depressing that, in a sense, that's what so many of these cases kind of need.
Yeah.
Is actually that the system doesn't work.
Mm.
And that's something that even then is recognised. Eric's been waving for ages, then Rachael.
I was just going to say that it's sort of interesting that it's Daniel who rises, and it's a man's voice basically having to support a woman's voice rather than I mean, because we talk about gender politics yesterday, so it was kind of inevitable, I guess. And like sort of if it was, I don't know, for example, Judith or like other examples that we can think of women who have been attacked, it kind of it makes me wonder what would they have sort of done at the time. Would they have believed her or not?
Rachael.
No, I was gonna say maybe this tree, I mean the tree thing is pretty random, I guess, to choose, but maybe because if it's a ripe season when the fruit is all ripe, maybe you would know what tree you were under just because of what you would be stepping on, when some of the fruit has already fallen to the ground. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the question that is not being debated as to whether they were in the garden. So the nature of this evidence is weird because, as I say, we know they were in the garden, and in the same place as she was. So that's not actually being debated. If they were just shouting over the wall and hadn't actually stepped inside and didn't know, it is an interesting thing. It just, I think, establishes that they've lied, and I think that's enough for the court. Yeah, Lynsey.
Yeah, there's a bit earlier in the scene where Judex says, "How many in this court doth stand to hear what God hath done? I charge them in that God has named their silence to use soon." So just before he sets Susanna free, that gives the impression of not a closed session but a public session, and that to do. I mean, and is this to do with report and ill report and good reports? It's Judex is saying silence, use silence, cause that silence be proclaimed, for both the import of it and also the truth of it, and not to go around being ill reporting of things, perhaps.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, yes, if this is a very, very public event, because we do have Daniel talk to the people. But the actual, it's not that those people are necessarily having any say as to what happens in the proceedings. They may be witnesses. So maybe Father is there, but he's not allowed to speak unless you're called by Baily and the crier. And this is a harsh court because they will stone you.
Also, it's possible Joachim just recused himself since he's so very concerned with doing the right thing. Mm. But then again, doing the right thing by God or doing the right thing by your wife. Mm.
That is hasn't necessarily. No, yes, that's yeah. Rachael, did you have more? Sorry,
No, I'm contributing nothing to the conversation except shitten. That word shitten. Just more poop jokes. I love the poop jokes and the poop language in this.
Yeah, the universal language, just like we and our parallels from 400 years ago can both laugh at poop jokes and dick jokes. Like they make the world go round, honestly.
Yes, I was asking in the chat because it's down as shit double T E, and there is no N on the end, and I was just wondering whether it could be shitty. Shitten worked very well, but I was just wondering whether it's God's wounds, knave, thou shitty slave, whether or as opposed to shitten. I've never come across shitty. You see, that's why I was asking the question, because I was just wondering, is this an early shitty? As opposed to a shitten, which we have got other examples elsewhere. These are the questions that keep me awake at night.
Are you going to write like a magazine article for an academic journal on this?
On this? No. I mean, to be fair, I have actually now got a note on my to-do list to actually do textual search to figure out the turd and fart load of plays, because I think use of turd and shit and these kind of epithets starts to fade as the century progresses. It's a really big mid-Tudor thing, I think, and I'm not sure it continues into the public playhouses. I think in public playhouses that it basically disappears by and large. So I'm wondering. So I'm very tempted to now sit down and do a textual search for those things to see what the level of incidence of shit and turd and fart and things are. Because again, I have nothing else to do in my life.
Apart from count turds.
Yeah. That's what he was doing today. He was counting turds, I was. Right.
I did enjoy it shitty, but I also enjoyed "and there with stones you shall be stoned" for any avoidance of doubt as to what one might be stoned with. I thought it was a...
Was it this play we had kneeling on knees as well? And I did ask the question as to what was one going to be kneeling on if you're not going to be kneeling on one's knees. Anyway, prepare yourselves, people, for what's about to come. So we've talked about tone, interesting tonal shifts coming up. So here goeth out, as I say, Judex and Daniel and Ill Report and Baily lead the two judges to execution.
Come off with the mischief. Is it now more grief for you two to die than other you thought, whom you accused for naught? Marry, fie, for shame, fie. Be of good cheer, you shall be past fear within this half hour. Much good do your hearts that thus do take parts in every stower. They that shall spy you judges to die for transgressing the law shall say that by might instead of good right you kept men in awe. Then he brings them to the stake.
That's it, yes. Direction. So then he brings them to the stake, indeed.
Now hold up your hands and receive your bands. Now throw on your stones, and there is for me one as much as 3 shall break all their bones.
Muted Voluptas at the moment.
Sorry. Soft, I pray thee yet a while. I pray thee hold thy hands, and suffer us to call on God. Upon us now it stands. And Lord, receive us yet at last, that erst did never know. Thy goodness nor thy mighty hand our wealth did blind us so. I have been given in all my time my flesh to follow still. Now, Lord, forgive my senses all, I leave them to thy will. My sins are more than I can tell, my sorrows passing great. The shivering passions of my bones doth cause my flesh to sweat. Now, Lord, into thy hands I leave my sobbing, sorrowful spirit. Receive it, Lord, and from the fiend defend me with thy might.
And to me, Lord, do not account the number of my sins. Reject the same and hear me now, for now my plaint begins. And though the falsehood of the flesh in wealth would let me know, yet in this my extremity do thou thy mercy show. The whole do need no medicine, it is bought for thee sake. So mercy, Lord, do help the froward and those against the kick. Not justice, Lord, but mercy we do crave to ease our bands, and by thy mercy both we yield our souls into thy hands.
Are you ready yet?
Yea, when you will.
Here they stone them. and the vice lets a stone fall on the Baily's foot, ow, and fall together by the ears. And when the judges are dead, the vice putteth on one of their gowns. Now the world is rid of a couple of knaves, we see.
And yet one too much alive by thee.
Nay, nay, my friend and brother, a knave is one, and you are another. I could but marvel of the words they did speak before they did die, and whence they did break.
Why, fool, knowest thou not yet that nature will teach thee when thou goest to hanging how thou shouldst preach?
Hanging, quotha, marry, I trust or I die, to see thy good face hang full high. I'm just going to pause there to just take in that bit of stage business. So earlier, as is fairly conventional in a lot of plays, when you're reading a stage direction like lead the two judges to execution, you're assuming they're going off stage, and that's going to be something that happens conveniently somewhere else. No, not only do we have a stoning here, we have a comedy stoning. We have comedy business in the middle of the stoning. You drop a stone on my foot, we have a fight, and then you steal the gown of one of the judges. Wow. Wow. Now, just for those who were in the room last week, who wishes that's how Patient Griselle ended? If in doubt, we can pull the emergency Susanna cord, and these pages of the script will come falling down, and that's how you end the play. Liza, maybe wishing to move against the comedy violence that we are currently championing.
You have met me, right? Comedy violence is my fave. But I was thinking, the vice has not necessarily stolen the gown. He was acting... They were executed communally by stoning, but he was acting as executioner by leading them to that place. And by tradition, the executioner got the dead person's clothes. It would be kind of fun for that last scene with the Baily if they each stole a gown and each had these, like, horrible, bloody garments over their shoulders, and they thought they looked amazing.
Especially while they're still doing banter. I mean, that, you know, now the world is rid of a couple of knaves, said by the two knaves who are on stage. Absolutely, yes. You're absolutely right. I totally forgot that. Yes, this is their due. This is what they get for organising a stoning. Do you get the audience to join in?
You give them ping pong balls or something.
Yeah, we did that as part of not a stoning. They were sponges, but I have done this kind of thing on a live show. It's fun. It's family friendly. Bring all the kids. Lynsey.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because, you know, when it was described, I was thinking, well, obviously nowadays we'd use sponges or, you know, whatever, maybe bean bags or something like that. But how would they have done this originally?
I would assume it's something light of that ilk. I would have thought. Yeah.
Paper mache is pretty old technology. You can do that.
But yeah, you've got two bodies still tied to a post for a while. I don't know the logistics of what's now happening with these two dead judges. I mean, this is a very dark, you know, it's humor. It's very dark humor.
I'm sure they're not tied to a post. I'm pretty sure they must get hit with stones and then fall down, so the poor actors can crawl off stage after the vice has stolen their clothes.
It's the line, now hold up your hands and receive your band, so you get the impression that they're tied up to the stake like that or something like that.
But then how would you get the gown off?
Well, you know, they cut the things, the body. I don't know.
Maybe their hands are just tied behind their back.
Yes.
But again, how would you get the gown off? I don't know.
Maybe it's just slung over their shoulders and it's fine. Yeah. Rachael.
No, I was gonna say about their clothes being taken after they've been killed by the vice character. We began like today with Il Report in Petticoat, and I wonder if he was snatching that from when they were in the orchard before, and Susanna had taken off her clothes or something from a pile.
Ooh.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe there's some parallel here because, you know, there's a scene where she's disrobed and now here they're disrobed and, you know, executed.
Oh, no, I really like that idea. That's a fab one. Yeah, I'm liking that. I like that very much. David?
Why do the judges fall together by the ears?
Oh no, it's the Baily and the Vice. Having had the stone dropped on my foot, we get into a fight.
Oh, I see.
It was an idiom of the time. To fall by the ears meant to fall fall with quarreling.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Comedy fight scene.
Okay.
You know, during which the judges are dead. I don't know. Happy days, Eric.
The way I'm seeing this is basically they've got the judges like sort of not backstage, but like further back anyway. So then you've got like Vice and the Baily in the front part of the stage. So you kind of, you know, you can focus on that action while the judges are stoned.
Mm.
And
Yes,
also you can just kind of feint the sort of throw, and it's like, oops, oops, I accidentally dropped it on your foot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, there are a lot of questions about points of focus. Anyway, we need to read on. We have paused mid-action, so we have Servuus and Ill Report entering. Servuus and True Report entering, rather. Let's not confuse the different kinds of report that we've got here. To share the space, as it were. So we've still got the Baily, we've got Ill Report, Servuus, and True Report enter.
I promise you I fear me much that ill rapport is fled. If not, I have commission to hang all but his head.
Who, devil, who? How doth the world go? Must ill report die? No, I trow, the world goes not so, then all were awry. For neither of prince nor king, nor of any other thing, but my tongue shall walk, the proudest of them all, shall not give me such a fall, or shall let me to talk.
Except I be deceived much, that same is ill report, that stands in yonder scarlet gown, and prates in such a sort. Come near, and we will see indeed whether it be he or no. For if it be, I tell thee true, he shall no further go. For why the judge hath given in charge, whereso we could him spy, we should for his demerit's sake hang him by and by.
It is he, indeed, I think. I will ask him the question. Sir, what is your name?
A judge, knave, thou seest, I am the very same. I am had in great price, both in city and in town. I am a magistrate, dost not see by my gown?
By my troth, I think more gravity consists in your coat than abides in your heart, or goes through your throat. You may be honest and sober, but your countenance doth give that you will grow worse and worse, so long as you do live.
Gog's wounds, knave, and vile knave too. Dost thou speak blasphemy? I am as honest a man as is in all this country, and for the antiquity of the house I was born in was a famous house before thou wast heard of or any of thy kin, and thou doest not well to use me in this sort.
Why, sir, is not your name Ill Report?
My name is Master Ill Report, indeed.
Hear'st thou True Report? This is the man we look for.
Marry, then, it is he that I come for.
My good fellow, why, what is thy name?
True Report. I am the very same.
Gog's wounds, cousin Hugh Report, how the devil met we here. I think thou sawest not William Report this 7 year. Methought by thy speech we should be acquainted, though prolixity of time thy visage had tainted. Oh, cousin Hugh, why, good cousin Hugh, take it in good part that I've fawn on thee, for I love thee with all my heart.
Thou art a false wretch, and not my cousin, I swear. He would have ill and true to be cousins. Is not this good gear?
Oh, cousin Hugh, it grieves me thou wantest learning and art so pretty a man. I will tell thee, fool, how thy name is Hugh and mine William. Though thou knowest it not thyself, I may not much blame thee. It is so long ago since thou wast in my country. 'Tis no letter but an aspiration, which may be left out in many a fashion. Helen with an H, hark and be attentive, or Ellen without an H is not offensive. So whether the H be put in or the H be left out, the word stands indifferent, this is no doubt. Now, take the H from thy name, then it stands like an U, and some friend hath put in tr, and so calls thee true. As by a familiar example, I know a false knave or two that are hostelers in inns, yet men call them true. Therefore leave of tr again, fie man for shame, and be called Hugh again, for that is thy Christian name. And now to my own name. First we are children and then grow to men, and Will for William is heard often then. And children at first, when they learn to prattle, instead of will do ill often tattle. Thus being young and called ill for Will, men for accustomed do call me so still, and it contents me well to hear the same, because for my purpose it often doth frame. And I myself did never seek it to amend, because by good learning I can it defend. Aphorasis is a figure which Latinestes use, and apocope another which they will not refuse. The one from the beginning of a word a syllable may cut, the other from the end another may shut. Now twixt aphoresis and apocope you may see full plain that ill for William is used without shame. Lo, thus do you see that we both have take names by figurative calling of our Christian names. But as for that, kindreds do not always agree in their Christian names, as every man doth see. That in the surname consanguinity doth grow, and so every kinsman his kinsman doth know, as Thompson to Thompson, and so in like sort, I, gentle Master William, thou Hugh report.
Such a definition heard you never, I trow. Sir, you can make a syllogismus in Bocado.
I beshrew your heart, you smell of learning. This knave hath been at Oxford, I give you warning. In Bocado, quoth you, I swear by Saint Meg, once was I there a year, fast tied by the leg, and at my coming forth I scaped a check, that had not heels helped hands, my arse had broke my neck.
Exore tuo Judeco, thou hast been an old thief.
Now shalt thou be hanged in sign of relief. Lo, true report, for all his great cunning, himself hath bewrayed his knavery in something.
Ill report troth will be troth, whosoever say no, and thou must be hanged before thou do go.
Nay, by the mass, then have I ill luck. If words will not serve, I will fight a pluck.
Nay then, let me come and help, for though my tongue be ill and I cannot use talking, yet I love to be where fists are walking. And here they struggle together, the jailer casts the rope about ill report's neck.
Why, knave, wilt thou choke me?
No, not yet, sir, but I will by and by.
Yet for pity's sake, let me first say my paternoster.
Content I, faith, we will bear with him till then.
Now by my father's soul thou art an honest man, and since thou doest so gently that time to me give, I will not say my paternoster while I have a day to live. And if you shall at any time hear that I so do, then hang me hardily and draw me too.
Fie on him, knave, away with the villain.
See, the knave himself can now call me William. If faith, cousin true, I shall but prepare your way. Yourself will be hanged to another day.
Here they have him to hanging, and the devil entereth, saying, "Oh, oh, oh." Devil, you are currently muted, so, oh, 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 please.
Oh, 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 how long have I with toiling pain sought Susanna's blood to get? What engines, snares, and other crafts about that I have fet? And yet that God still doth me wrong, he doth my force withstand, and them that I do seek to get, he keeps them in his hand. He suffers some to lean to me as they would come along, and when I think with them to meet, by him my prey is gone. Oh, God, wilt thou not yet thy spite leave off? Wilt thou yet still seem for to offer as thou doest, and yet deny my will? Well, ill report, thou villain boy, thy bones I mean to gnaw. Because of that I gave thee charge, I am no whit in awe. Why stand I here and suffer him all this while to take rest? His soul, his bones, his flesh, and all by me shall be possessed. And what there is in hell to harm or punish him withal, or what I may devise anew, his flesh shall feel it all. O boy, O knave, O foolish sot, shouldst thou be put in trust, and haste not wit to bring to pass that thing I after lust? Well, well, thou villain boy and wretch, I joy thyself art come, and what I would have done to her, thou shalt have all, and some. From hence, therefore, even presently my journey I will take, and hie me fast, for time it is, to mine infernal lake.
And the devil goeth forth. So it's lots of questions here about how this scene actually ends. Is Ill Report being hanged, and the devil talks to him effectively while he's there, or we don't have the devil carrying him off on his back, or we don't in the stage directions, but that we've had that in other plays where the bad character. But yeah, the Ill Report for failing, price is bad. Really, really, not only death in the real world, but eternal torment by father. By your dad. He's no longer calling you. There's no dad or son business here anymore, is it? No. Lynsey.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if Ill Report is hanging on stage at some stage between dead and alive or whatever, and the devil comes on and he's sort of referring to Ill Report but talking to the audience, that could be quite strangely effective, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they may just take him off stage and the devil comes on. I mean, but I have to say, if I was doing it, I'm feeling that this play really doesn't want to go by halves at the moment. I'm not feeling that. I should also just say, before I go to Erica, Alex, well done. What a fabulous speech that is. I love that speech. It's just try and bamboozle them by saying will and ill and tr and her and all these sounds until a very simple proposition has been destroyed.
It is very, like you were saying about Alice in Wonderland, it's very Alice in Wonderland. And it's also still funny. It's one of those jokes from this period that sort of still works because the vowel sounds and the rhymes still work. It's not one of those ones where you've got to do a huge amount of brain work to go, oh, it would have been that. But I love, like, I was looking in the chat box at the will I am and ill I am. Servuus Report, which is just a brilliant name.
Yeah, and again, it's based on a very simple gag that clowns are doing all the time, which is mishearing a true report. Oh, Hugh! Anyway, it's a terrible gag, but it does it so well.
I think it's its terribleness that actually makes it that he commits to it, and sort of, it's one of those puns that would sort of not be funny if it was sort of not over-egged. It's the fact it's totally over-egged that makes it. But I really love the contrast of that with that final, like you were saying, with the final devil scene. And I love the idea of him still hanging and almost squirming kind of while he's sort of being talked to. Yeah,
it's the fact that Baily's with him, standing in the background saying nothing, and then just produces this noose. And just, and I just love Baily's line, will you choke me? No, not yet, sir, but I will by and by, That is just wonderful. Sorry, very delayed on Eric and then Rachael.
I was just going to say the whole hang shenanigans remind me a bit of the Common Conditions bit where Common Conditions just kind of goes, oh yeah, you can try hanging me, because, he's kind of trapped in a tree or something, or traps himself in the tree. I can't remember what happened.
Oh, he talks them into saying, would
yeah.
you like me to hang myself for you?
Yeah,
and then hides
and
up,
he just,
climbs
like,
a tree and just,
pretends to be an owl or something.
Yeah. He just starts shouting, yeah.
Yeah, so there was that, and then I was like, wait, no, this is much darker than that, but it's also interesting to have that reference as as a comparison.
Yeah, Rachael.
I just the Baily. I feel like is there more than one clown in this, and it's like clown versus clown at the end. Just the yet I love to be where my fists are walking, and when you did this, it was over the top. It's too funny.
Yeah, Baily does seem to be not a nice bloke. I mean, they are both knaves on some level here. It's just Baily's slightly more, of the system. We're not quite at the end, but I have to say, are we sort of enjoying this because of the catharsis that we're sort of, justice has been done. We've seen justice done. The bad people have all got their just desserts in a very visual way. Should we feel bad for enjoying this so much? Liza.
Well, at the start, I think we were all just braced for terribleness because we know that the Susanna story is a story of attempted rape. But it turned out that the play was actually more of a play about slander. Because, there is that moment from the Bible story where the two judges watch her bathe naked. And then they say, lie with us, we'll give you all this good stuff. And she says no, and they don't then move to, well, we'll force you. They move to, well, if you don't, we'll spread slanders about you. And she's like, okay. And they're like, okay. And that's the second half of the play, basically.
Rachael.
No, talking about like parallels again, like how she was naked in the orchard to what they were trying to do to her physically. I think this play, like what Liza was saying about slander, is just how open people are to slandering a woman too, that a woman is like naked to slander. And, like people have, what do you call it? Like carte blanche, complete freedom to do it.
Yes, absolutely. We have one CNET left to do, which we have not done as of yet. I'm going to ask Lynsey to rejoin the scene. If you could be Helchia, please, in the scene coming up. And I will ask, at the end of the scene, David, could you read, confusingly, the prologue? And we'll run to the end of the play. So the devil's gone forth. We can assume that ill report has exited to be hanged or has been hanged and the body's been removed. And here now we have the family unit all in one place. Joachim, Susanna, Helchia, Susanna's father, and his wife, Susanna's mother, enter.
When stormy clouds doth show their force and boisterous winds work care, then each man saith when these are past, you weather will be fair. And semblably, my Lord, my God, amidst my heavy cheer, I hope at length as now it doth my quiet would appear. I have to thank thy majesty for every kind of gift, but chiefly for mine honest wife, my heart to thee I lift. How didst thou, Lord, against her foes her simpleness defend? How didst thou clean deliver her, even at her latter end? I thank thee, Lord, yet once again thou hast delivered so, that from thy praise my heart nor lips shall henceforth never go.
Nay, then am I, good Lord, most bound to yield thee hearty praise, that hast by helping this my child prolonged these my days. Sorry I was to hear her fault, more sorry for her death. Her fault was none, and she lives still. What joy like this on earth? To serve thee still, as I have done, it is my whole pretence. Thou art my strength, my hope, my aid. I seek no other defence.
Mine are the joys, and yours none. God hath given all to me, for greater joys than I do feel, there surely none can be. My daughter was given to the death, Thou keep'st her with thy might. Thou helpest her for thy mercy's sake, because her cause was right. Thus I confess and will do still, while life in me doth reign. Thou only, God, hast strength enough to rid each wight from pain.
No, no, good Lord, above the rest to praise thee I am bound, that me dost help miraculously, and eke my foes confound. I was but dead, and thou to life restoredst me, silly wight. What is she then that beareth breath that more can show thy might? And this thine act shall so increase within me evermore, and from thy laws I will not slide, although I die therefore.
Also, good Lord, amongst thy gifts, which every day are seen, we have to praise thy mighty grace for our most noble queen. Defend her, Lord, in all affairs. Give passage to thy word, and cut them short that will her woe. Grant this, O living Lord.
And to her noble counsel, Lord, give wisdom and good health. Grant that they do may glory thee and mend the commonwealth.
And for the commons of this realm, O Lord, grant my request. But what thou and the prince doth will, they judge it for the best.
And for this company gathered here do I my prayer make. God grant them their life in quietness, and then their souls do take.
They go out, and the prologue, or i.e. the person who spoke the prologue at the beginning, entereth.
Here have you heard, good audience, the end of this our work, wherein we trust no cause of grief if any point doth lurk. And though we cannot beautify the same with music's song, bear with our rudeness in that part, we troubled you not long. And if our author may perceive you take this in good part, to do the like you comfort him again with all his heart. If anything have been amiss, inform him, if you please. If everything do like you well, to God give all the praise. To whom I leave you every one, and eke myself withal, who grant us all eternal life. Amen. Now say you all.
And the play ends, and yes, they've managed to squeeze in praise for the Queen. So always nice to get that in at the end there. Well, it is the 1560s, isn't it? That's the kind of thing you get. So it was God what won it. Basically, this is a whole scene of basically isn't God great? And yeah, thank you for that. All that got
no one thanked the ghost of Daniel though.
No, well, you know, if you think of Lord, you know, as sort of an acronym for some sort of legal team, you know, he's just one of, you know, that he's part of the team. They're thanking him along with the rest of Lord. I tried to think of a good acronym earlier. I just couldn't come up with one. I got as far as legal, and then I got lost on O. I did try though. Anyway, Rachael.
No, I was just gonna say the Devil and Daniel Webster, that short story / movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we've got to the end of the play. I wasn't expecting that final scene was going to be exciting and great. I was pretty much, it gave me exactly what I was expecting from this play. I'm quite content actually to have, you know, them perhaps just having a party silently with some music, and then close the play there or something. I don't know. But it's a morality play of its time. That is the ending you would expect. Let's praise God. Let's praise the Queen. Thank you very much. Good night. Try not to bump into the furniture on your way out. Any other thoughts with that? Or wider thoughts about the play overall? As we sort of get towards the end of the session, I have to say I have very surprisingly enjoyed this play enormously. I was not expecting to be coming in and saying that. I was expecting to say maybe a very serious play, maybe a play doing difficult things more or less successfully. But no, that was genuinely enjoyable and tricky at times, but yeah, Thomas Garter has created something here that's very interesting. It's a bit repetitious, I think, in some of the verse, but when he hits a zinger, really nicely. So, thoughts from the room? Anything anyone wants to add? Rachel?
No, I was gonna say, if you do a modern clothes version of this, maybe put it at like a Christian college or something.
Well, the setting, or that's where we taught to.
The setting, like, I don't know. You could explain why they're always talking about God, and it could be the same story.
Yes, framing device for that. Alex, yes.
It's interesting that Rachel said that, because I think you mentioning Alice in Wonderland put it into my head as well, but I was envisaging it as a sort of high Victorian production, because of the whole sort of slander and reputation and women and the misrule thing in it, that it totally lends itself to Alice in Wonderland on the bit that I've read of it today, because there's this weird disjunction of what's actually quite a serious, almost quasi-naturalistic scene with then all this off-the-wall stuff that kind of, and I love Satan just wandering by kind of out the other side again. And the religious piousness, which, Victorians loved a bit of piety, didn't they? So that sort of sat well with me. But I really liked it. I'm surprised. I was expecting another Grizzle, and it wasn't. Thank God.
Yeah, but we've got. I was half serious here. We just in the event we have another session like Grizel, where we're sort of sitting there going, oh, I've just pulled the emergency cord, and we get the closing section from this, and that's how we close the session, and we'll walk away happy. Yeah, I love the high Victorian thing. I think that works really well, and just for the listeners and viewers at home, I brought up Alice in Wonderland. I specifically brought up the Jonathan Miller version did in the late '60s. Because during the courtroom scene for that, you have this ongoing cacophony of, order in court, order in court, order in court, order in court, right? And it just builds, and it's all done by very nicely timed comics as well. It's very nicely done, and it's just all of that stuff. It's implied that the crier and Baily, and probably even the judge themselves, are just going, I said that, no, shush, and it just keeps going round, breaking up what is otherwise a very, very, very serious set piece. So yeah, Lynsey.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the point Liza made earlier about how it is more a play about slander. I think is a really, really good point. Obviously, that's what is happening in this text, and having been concerned that the writer was maybe not going to be treating the narrative of Susanna with due decorum or whatever. I think there must be an assumption that the audience knows the tale of Susanna, and therefore they know how the story turns out, and therefore they're there to see that and to digest that piece of meat with endless amounts of frothy dessert provided by all the comedy and the wordplay that goes on, particularly in the second half. So I think it's a really interesting piece, and having done it now, I'd really, really be interested to kind of explore it more, I think.
And I mentioned at the end of the last session, the prologue does set all this stuff up. He does set his stall actually very clearly in the prologue. The story being good, the matter also true, doth but declare a matter old, as it were done anew. And I think there's some weight on that point, as this is a reboot of this narrative, you may know, but there's going to be some differences. And I think he's made some very good choices. Actually, I think this could have been a horrible thing, and he's done it so very well. And we've talked about, though perchance some wanton word do pass, which may not seem, or gestures light, not meet for this. Your wisdoms may it deem, Yes, we're mixing it with mirth, people. It's going to be, there may be some rude bits, but it's all good. It's all good. Okay, well, we've got a time setting. We've got a sort of groping towards a version of this that I'm liking very much. Other final thoughts, David? Do you have anything to add?
I mean, I very much like Alex's idea of the Victorian setting, and it is a fascinating play, but I still think it would be quite hard to pull off, because you've got these two things almost pulling in two different directions. So it would be fascinating to see it staged, but how that more extreme element would work in the Victorian setting, I'm not sure.
Well, there's another question I suppose to ask on the text, which is, Susanna, the two Susannas that we've had over the days, how much is there? What were you feeling about Susanna as a part, and also, what she says within this text? She doesn't have a lot. She has a lot more to say in this session than she had the last one. But how are we feeling about her as a character? I'm putting the Susannas on the spot a bit there. I don't know if do you have any thoughts about her, Lynsey?
Yeah, I'm thinking that she speaks well, and she makes good account of herself. But I mean, I was sort of thinking yesterday, there are sort of glimmers of complexity in her, in the way that she's speaking, and maybe in the tone that she says what she's saying. And we were talking in the other session about, is this, is her relationship with Joachim, like a sort of well-worn marriage where they can kind of talk to each other. I don't really know if any of that holds up, having had today's session, but it might be interesting to look at it again with that in mind.
Okay. Any other final thoughts from the room? I'm sorry, I don't need to force anything out of you. Liza.
Yeah, just that it wasn't the play I was expecting, but I'm glad about that. That Patient Griselle that we looked at very recently was a secular story told like a biblical story, where no plot development could happen without at least 6 characters giving you a sermon about it. And in this one, the sermons were relatively few, and when they occurred, they were relatively short. And yeah, rather, I'm trying to work out what the moral of the story is, because if it's not a play that's primarily about predators, is the moral of the story, you had better not go to court if you're innocent, because the judges are all adulterous bastards and they will screw you over? Or is the moral of the story, and this might be a good moral, if you hear someone talk about what a woman has been up to, you should doubt them, because it might not be true, and a ghost might come and get you hanged or something.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. That feels like a good moral. If, for that matter, the play needs a moral. Lynsey.
Yeah, just one more point, which was that we were, Alex brought up this idea of the sort of a high Victorian kind of, treating of it, and I was thinking in the chat box we were referencing Salome, and I was remembering that Oscar Wilde, of course, wrote a play about Salome, so maybe there is actually quite a good landing in that era for a text like this.
But other eras are available. We're not here to close off the options. If you at home have other ideas, then do let us know. And for all I know, this may have been produced somewhere. I haven't actually done any research to find out if it has any production history. I wouldn't be surprised if someone somewhere hasn't done it in some form, even if it's just a rehearsed reading. Any other thoughts from the room before I close the session? I'm seeing all lots of blank faces. We have wrestled with this comedy, of which there is much genuine comedy, very dark humour, very interesting choices of tone and brutal violence, but presumably also largely there to a degree for laughs, and we and the audience are sort of just there to cheer on. All sorts of questions. Hopefully someday we'll be able to dig deeper into this one, because I think it's going to reward some more work. All that remains is to thank all these wonderful people for their sharing their time and sharing these words with us. Thank you very much, and goodbye. You smell of learning.